You are now listening to the Team OD podcast, where conversations are centered around anything and everything outdoors related. Welcome to today's episode. What's up, everyone? It's episode 2. Taylor and Gunner here again, and we're excited about today's episode. To start it off, this weekend was the last weekend in Oklahoma for waterfowl season, and me and Gunner were under the weather, and kind of just laid around. It didn't go out this weekend, so
I got my butt kicked.
yeah.
Bacterial sinus infection that they said moved into my lungs, and the lady was like, it had to have been there a long time for it to move down. I'm like, yeah, I don't go to the doctor very often, so that was on me. But
yeah, I don't know what happened. It was Sunday, and it hit me hard, and throughout the week, so I just kind of laid around. I actually went. My brother-in-law came over, which you know, Dylan, and me, Dylan, and Nathan Beagle went out coyote hunting, and shout out if they listen. This will be a test if they listen. And we went out and had a great day. We made 5 stands, killed 4 dogs. So it was pretty funny, though. I was trying to set up to where they would come in for Dylan a couple times, and no matter where I set, they kept coming on my side where almost where Dylan would have to shoot through my head if he was going to shoot at him. One time I was like, Dylan, shoot it. And he's like, I can't. And I was like, why? And he said, look at my barrel. And I looked, and his barrel was like an inch from my ear. And I was like, yeah, good call. I would have been deaf. So good weekend. Some good football games. We saw NFL. We saw who gets to go to the Super Bowl. So Gunner, who you call? Who's going to win it?
I want the 49ers to win it because I'm tired of watching Patrick Mahomes. But it's hard to pick against Pat. But I think Shanahan's going to get it done. I'm going 49ers.
Man, I say 49ers. You got to give the respect to Mahomes when pressure was on him, and all through the season we saw him kind of down at times, and he came back and did that, and him and Kelsey. And but man, the 49ers have the team to do it, I think. I think they have more tools to use, and I think they have a better defense. So I don't know. I think it'll be an exciting one. I was pulling for the Lions and the Ravens just because they were kind of the underdogs, and I like that. And I like what Lamar was doing this year. I wanted to see Goff back in it from when he got traded and all that stuff. But that was a good football weekend. I really enjoyed it. So
I love football. It was interesting. I wouldn't have minded seeing the Lions make it.
They had it in the bag. They had it in the bag. Up 17.
Yeah.
And then this
reminds me of a bunch of our goose hunts.
Yeah.
We got them. They're coming in. Never mind.
Yeah. We had it in the bag. No, we didn't. We fumbled.
So, yeah.
No, but so today's topic, we're very excited to talk about to everyone. It's kind of been something, that we get to look back on, and we tell a lot of stories of during that time. And today's topic is going to be about the Womack Buck, Gunner's 8x8 he killed in 2019. And, that's kind of short. Long story short, before we get into everything, that's kind of what got us on our feet and kind of opened the door for us to get to where we are today. And, I mean, me and Gunner talked last podcast. We kind of owe this deer this podcast. It deserves its special episode, I should say. So, you have anything to say?
No.
About that? No.
No. There's just some things that we hadn't really talked about that we're gonna get to talk about. So
yeah, there's some crazy things. We're not, we're probably not going to name drop, but we're definitely going to go into some details about this industry that kind of opened our eyes and kind of showed us it's about the teams you build. It's about the people that you surround yourself with that are in it for you. and not in it for them. So, anyways, we won't go further in that until later down. Um, so, first topic today is the history of the deer of the year before. So, it'd be the 2018 season. Gunner, kind of go ahead and talk about your guys' 2018 season history with that deer.
So he started coming in real early. Like I said, we had him even the year before, but I mean, he was a 6x6 and he was a solid, like, I want to say like 150s type
Was he
deer.
a 6x6 or is he 6x7? Some reason I want to say he was a six by
He
seven.
might have been a 6x7. It's been so long, and
Yeah,
all I can remember of him is 8x8.
yeah, but yeah, I
No,
want to say he might have been 6x7.
he might have been a 6x7, but
But regardless, he was a
he's
respectable deer.
about he was about 150
Mm-hmm.
inch ish deer, and I mean, he was a big deer. I mean, by all means, a lot of people shot him. I never
Yeah,
saw him in person. My dad did. My dad saw him the year before, and he had every single time broke off. It was like someone came over with a chainsaw and went zzz, head
zapped
trimmers
him.
and cut him. Yeah, just zapped it right off, and that's what made it easy for him to pass.
Yeah,
Really, he was going to pass him anyway because, my dad, he didn't hardly shoot anything. It takes him. He'll stare at a deer for 2 hours before he shoots him.
yeah,
He wasn't going to shoot that deer anyway that year, but yeah, we the year before we saw him once. My dad saw him a couple times. I didn't see him a single time in person.
right.
And then
Um,
yeah,
oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
and then he was. I mean, that's what made him an easy pass for 18 anyway for my
Right.
dad.
So going into say 19 season, did you guys do anything different knowing about him, or did you guys just keep the same stuff going? As in, um, like nutritional wise, did you guys start feeding anything different, or did you guys keep doing the same thing? And either or, what was it that you did?
If you remember right, we had a deer before him that was like 170 ish, like non-typical that dad killed.
Yeah.
So we we had a system we thought had worked with
Mm-hmm.
the mineral late season, and then we'd feed a little bit during season, do our food plot stuff. But we had added a stand. That's about the only thing different we did. We'd added a stand. We thought it was like a staging area, like we
Yeah.
were going to kill him, like before he hopped out on the field after dark. We'd
Mm-hmm.
set that up on a trail, and we really thought that's the stand we were going to kill him out of. And
Right.
that's the stand that dad almost killed his deer out of several times, doing exactly what this deer did all the time. So we just assumed we were like we had moved it that year that I killed my deer, but the year before that he kind of set it up in that area, but we had moved it again. We had added a food plot, I want to say, to the west side of the property, made it
Mm-hmm.
bigger, but not. We hadn't really changed a whole lot. I mean, we ran a little bit of goat mineral. I call it goat mineral. It's similar type stuff. Add them a little bit after the 18 season, kind of like after the rut, trying to get them back right, I guess you could say. Give them a little food there. But nothing that we did for this year had we not done previously.
Previous, yeah.
Because
So,
we had another big deer.
right. So I know talking with your dad, a lot of stuff what you do, and I'm trying to ask questions and kind of let everyone else see what, kind of get the whole picture. But
Mhm.
so kind of a backfill. Steve likes to feed mineral, right as rut hits. There's a lot of science and a lot of research out there that says that's when they need it because that's the toughest time of the year on them. And so Steve kind of runs a couple self feeders right at each place to have
He
mineral.
he'll self feed them, and then when he's like after rut, he'll like mix it in that corn and like almost force feed them. Like if they want to
Right.
eat the corn, they got to get a little bit of it, and he'll run that after season a little bit, and then that's just kind of how we've done it in the
Right.
past.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is so. Um, if you guys look into it, I didn't really I didn't look into this stuff until Steve and Gunner started talking to me about it, and it makes a lot of sense. Those deer are about to go through the roughest time on their body, and their body's already trying to tell them what they need to be next year. So the theory is, if you start feeding it earlier, you're already going to get ahead of the game than when it's too late. And so that's kind of what the theory of it is. What I gathered from Steve, from my talks with him and my research. So if the faster you prepare for them, the better they should have, and then the next year they should have a better year in growth.
Theory,
And
yeah, like the whole theory would be like whenever they're try to get them as healthy as they can, so when they drop, everything they have goes right back up top
yeah, it's
instead of
kind of like
fixing themselves, if that makes
that's kind of
sense.
like bodybuilding. You drink your
Mhm.
protein before you go, not after you go, and that's kind of that. So that's a backstory on that. So you guys didn't do anything different. You kind of moved some stands around. Did you move the stands around? Or was your mindset for him? Was it like him, or did you have a couple of deer that year?
We had a couple. Like I said, so before he came back, we did not account for what he was gonna be.
Right,
So before he came back, we had already kind of moved stuff. He didn't show up on camera until 2 weeks into season.
right.
Like, I want to say, I want to say my sister won a state championship in softball, and we were at their state championship bonfire, and I was looking at pictures, and I about fell over in the car when I first
Yeah,
saw him.
I remember
And
that. I remember when you sent it to me, and we were like, "Holy cow!" And if I have it, I'll pop it up on here for the people watching on YouTube. If you're listening on Apple and Spotify and kind of want to see this picture, we'll pop it up. But it's an unreal first picture. I mean, when Gunnar sent that to me in our group, I was like, "Holy cow!" Like,
did
and
not
at
think
that time, Gunnar, did you guys think that was the deer? Did you know that was him? Like when you first saw him, were you like, "Holy cow, that's the 6x7"? I want to say he's a 6x7 the year before.
when I first saw him, my mind went there just because of how picket fencey he was, and he had the
Hmm.
same frame his
Hmm.
whole life. He just kept building on the frame. He had the
Right.
same figure, and when that figure came up, I just thought it was him. Like immediately,
Mhm.
I did. I mean, it was just a split second, and then more
That's it.
pictures came through, and it confirmed it. We thought, and it did confirm it.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I first saw him, my mind went to that because of how he looked. But
Hmm.
yeah.
So when you guys first saw him, um, what was your thought? What was your first thought when you saw a picture? Did you think big deer, or did you think world class deer? What was your first thought when you saw that picture?
Biggest deer, you know, I will have harvested to date if I shoot him. And then dad,
Right.
same thing. I mean, that was our first thought, was like, would be our new PR, either one of us. I mean,
Right.
he had just shot the year, like I think 2 years before that.
Hmm.
That stud non-typical. I had shot some nice deer, but not on
Hmm.
that level.
Yeah.
Um, but no, never did I originally think world class deer. Dad would make jokes about it later, like, "Oh, this is a new state record right here," just joking about it.
Hmm.
Now he says he kind of believed it, but until he was on the ground and you were looking at him, I mean, you can tell in the pictures like he's a stud,
Yeah.
but you don't. It's not. It's hard to grasp it until you see him laying there dead
Right.
and you pick him
So
up and yeah.
before we get too far in that, so you got the pictures, you sent it to me. I was pumped. I was stoked for you. I hunt right by him. I
Mhm.
hunt by Gunner, about quarter mile crow fly. And if a crow flies, and I was thinking back in my head, I was like, man, the possibility of him coming over here is realistic. I was like, holy
Mhm.
cow, like this is insane. Like, um, the year before, I did have one picture of him. I remember that because I sent it to your dad and I was like, "Well, what do you know what this deer is?" And that's when me and you, backstory again. That's when me and you started kind of talking. Was the year before, and your dad was like, "Yeah, we have that deer." And so then we form fast forward, we formed a group, Team OD. We launched October 1st, 2019. What date was that when you first got the picture? It
I
was
can look
like
it up on my phone whenever Abby won state.
I want to say it was like the first. It wasn't. It was during deer season, was it not?
Yeah,
Like
they
was it like
play.
the first few days, like the first week?
I made the statement. I thought it was 2 weeks in December. Probably wasn't. I think it was October 13th. I'm looking at this
I
picture.
want to
That's the
say
day.
it was right around. It was a few weeks in season because so
Because that's the
Gunner.
day. That's
Go
the
ahead.
day I posted a picture with Abby, my sister,
Right.
for her state championship, and that's supposedly the night I looked at the camera pictures and
Right.
saw him.
And you end up shooting them on. I always get this mixed up. 22nd.
Yeah.
Okay. So Gunner gets his picture the 13th. I think it was like the 15th or 16th. I shoot a deer, can't find it. And it's our first. It's like our first year of actually, start filming. Gunner was getting a camera in, didn't have it in. When I had the chance, I was trying to go with Gunner. When Tanner had the chance, he was trying to go with you. We get that picture. Tanner was trying to go with you. That night was supposed to be a really good night that Gunner actually went, which hold on, getting too fast. So let's take it back. Gunner, you get that picture. What was your mindset from that day of what you were going to do to kill that deer?
Anytime I had a good wind and I wasn't gonna mess with him, I'd hunt him.
Right.
I went into it smart. I never hunted a bad wind. I didn't hunt the same place a whole lot. Like I said, I didn't hunt a bad wind. A lot of times winds shift on me. We're in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I'm always hunting somewhere different, really. I kind of tried to stick to the top side, which
Mm-hmm.
is where I killed him, but just because that middle field and that top field, just because that's where he was mostly. He'd gone to the west side, but I kind of thought I was going to kill him on that top side. So I tried to stick there. Anytime a wind was good for there, I definitely hunted there. And I hunted there a lot. I mean,
Yeah,
I was
I
there.
remember.
I
And
was there
that was
before I got a picture because
that was the year that you started your job at the cross. Excuse me, I'm sorry, the cross country course,
yeah.
and you're weed eating, or you had to mow it and take care of the course, so you were working a lot. And I remember. So let's fast forward to the 21st. You didn't see him, right? You didn't see him before. That was the first time you ever laid eyes on him, right?
First time ever. The
Okay.
day, I think it was 23rd. The day I posted the picture was 23rd. That was the first day I ever laid eyes on him in the 2 or 3 years we had pictures of him.
So let's roll back a day.
Yeah,
That
23rd.
the day before you missed that big 8 point, and you came to my house. Remember, you're mad, and Gunner
Wanted to
had
weed a
this.
big 8 out there.
Yeah, Gunner had this giant 8 point out there, and I mean, probably your true 130s, if not 140s, 8 point. He was no joke, and we mean that like it was legit true 130s, 140s. And some stuff happened. Gunner got a bad angle on him. Uh, didn't make it connect. I remember him coming to my house mad about it. And so then the next day, we're all together again. We're all heading out. Tanner was supposed to go with you that night, but you didn't know if you were going to get to go because you had to work. And you were blowing us up. You were going, should I go? Should I go? And I remember just going, dude, you got to get in there. Like you have one of the biggest deer that I've ever seen. Like you got to get in there. You got to get in there. And so from that point, you got off work. You got off late. So from that point, you tell us a story of what happened, and like all the way through. Just tell us a story, and then I'll come in when I come in the picture of getting there and talk
Okay.
about that moment.
Well, I'll start by saying I had a 200-yard fence line to weed eat,
Yeah.
and thought I was going to be late. I didn't, like I said, I was trying to play it semi-safe and not pressure him because he's a mature deer. You don't want to tip him off. And I got in there at like 5 o'clock. I mean, if it was 5 o'clock, it might have been like 5:15, and it's October. I got in there, and not 10 minutes later, I had deer coming out. I believe 2 bucks came out early, and they were messing with 2 does that ended up coming out later. And it was one of the best hunts I've ever been on. I was on and off my phone texting, and I'd like miss things. It was so crazy because I was trying to talk to my dad, trying to talk to my boss. Deer everywhere. I'm in this bow stand. I got deer close. I mean, I saw like 4 or 5 of the mature deer that we had out there that night. Like, it was one of those nights.
Yeah.
And I saw the deer Gage killed.
Yeah, and I was only a quarter of a mile, and I was having a great night too.
It was a wild night. It wasn't like it was overly cold.
Mm-mm.
I don't know. Maybe it was hit just right where they were starting to think about getting busy, kind of like the first kind of snap where they went, I'm going to start checking things out, running things. And I think it was late October. I mean, it makes sense.
My scrape cameras were going crazy during that time. They were actually starting to fight quite a bit.
And I was actually thinking about, I was looking at this other buck, and I was like, man, he's mature. I was like, but there's 2 other deer out here I want bad. And I was kind of looking at him, and I was like, no, there's 2 other deer out here, that big 8-point, and the 8x8. And like I said, there's a ton of deer out there, bucks everywhere, deer everywhere. And these 2 young bucks that had come out early were messing with this doe, like trying to kind of push her, young bucks do. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, here comes Big Boy, and it's getting dark. We're probably 20, 30 minutes for shooting lights over with at this point in time.
Yeah.
And he comes out with his head down, mad. And he runs those bucks off.
Hey, pause real quick. When you first saw him, what was your thought? Like, were you like, oh my, like, what was your first, like, initial, or, what I mean? Like, were you deer in headlights looking at him, or what?
I told myself, I said, oh my gosh, he actually came out. you think of these things in your head like he's going to come out and I'm going to kill him, but you don't really think about it till you actually see him. And you get so close with these deer you see on camera that it's just like, you see him in person, you're like, my gosh. Yeah. And he was even more so. And when he came out, I was like, oh my gosh, that's him. I knew immediately. I was like, that's him.
Were you sitting there, and did you like look over your shoulder, or did he come out in front of you, or kind of where did he come out?
I was standing up, luckily. He came out technically behind the stand towards the cabin, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
He came from the pipeline, or from the power line area, really. He came down the tree line and straight down towards the feeder area. Right there, just boom, right at those bucks. And he came down with his head down, mad, full speed, boom, and he stopped. And I was like, and I kind of grabbed my bow, and he kind of jogged out towards the power line in our food plot, and he crossed over to that, and he was about 40 yards. Now, I'm going to preface this. I had never shot a deer with my bow.
Yeah. Backstory. This is Gunner's first time with his new bow that you got that year, like right before season started.
Only thing I've ever shot with my bow was a turkey with Taylor, and it was the luckiest thing I'd ever seen in my life. He flew across a creek at us and stopped. I drew back and killed him, and he flew up and died. And it was Taylor looked at me and said, I don't know, sometimes it happens like that. We didn't even, he called at him. We had a decoy there, and he flew across, stopped, looked the other way, and I drew back and killed him. That's the only I have killing anything with a bow. And that was a different bow. So I got this new bow, right? It's a good bow. Matthews Schillar.
It's a beautiful bow.
I was still shooting Rage at the time. I know.
Hey, everyone was shooting it at that time.
Yeah, shooting the Rage hypodermics, gold tip arrows. sponsor us. No.
Yeah.
um, anyway, he's about 40 yards, and I had a tiny shooting window behind this tree branch. And I was like, I gotta take the shot. Like, why do I practice? Like, I'm in this scenario. So
Well,
I
let's
go
go
to
back. Hold on. We forgot some of the funniest parts. We've told this story so many times that we forget some stuff. The night before, too, you shot at all them pigs. Remember?
in a different stand. I hit a
Yeah,
pig in
at
the
a different
back.
stand. He shot all these pigs, and you were walking out, and those pigs came up on you, and you shot at one. And
Yeah.
you didn't think you were going to go today, or you didn't think you were going to get to go and be at this point. So you didn't go home and refill with arrows. So he had one arrow with the field with the practice head, and one arrow with the rage on it. And
Yeah.
so let's go back. He's back at 40 yards.
Yeah. One of my arrows is in the back of a pig, probably still today. They're tough. But anyway, I I hit him. Yeah, anyway. Yeah, he's about 40 yards. I got one arrow with a broadhead on it. I go to grab my bow, and then he just turns on a dime, sprints back to where he came from. And I said, "Yep, that's it. He's gone. Never gonna see him again." You know. Then he comes sprinting right back out. I don't know what was on his mind that night. He was sprinting everywhere.
He had one thing on his mind, but
Yeah, he was hyped
13.
up that night. He he sprints right back out, kind of the same area he'd sprinted out originally. This time he comes across the back of my stand. So the tree my stand's in that splits my stand, he comes across it, and I already have the bow on the other side because he
Yeah,
was, you know, to the right side of the back of the stand. Now he's to the left. So with the arrow in there knocked, I have to take my bow, go around the branch. There's like 40 deer on the field, I swear. Probably not, but there was at least 20.
yeah,
And does, might I add, and a few bucks. And they see everything. And it's
yeah.
big old mature mama does too. And so I'm taking this bow, I'm taking it around the tree. I get my bow ready, I draw back, I look down. I'm telling myself, don't miss. They're never gonna believe you. If you miss a steer, no one's ever gonna believe he was actually in front of you. He's 25 yards too, so it's like if I miss, it's not a good look. So I'm looking down it, and I breathe. I kind of go, and I kind of lean back and I look at him. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm good. I kind of sit there and I knock again on my kisser, and I look down it and I breathe out, and I kind of go ooh, and I go pump, and I hear a big slap. And it was dark at this point in time. There was like at most 10 minutes left till it's shooting lights over with. So it's pretty dark at this point in time. I hear a big slap, and I can just see immediately he's laboring. My first thought, I've never told anybody this. My first thought was, did I just hit something like, because the backside of that panel, if you remember, we put up panel for those pigs.
Mm-hmm.
I was deathly afraid I just smoked one of those panels.
Yeah,
Or one of those T-posts.
yeah,
It was that loud when it hit that deer. When it first happened, my brain went T-post.
yeah,
Like when I first let it go. But then I saw him laboring, going over there, and I thought I'd see where I hit. I felt good about the shot, and everything felt great until I heard that sound. And it almost was like a tink, but I think it may have, I don't know what happened. It just, maybe my adrenaline was just so high. I don't know.
yeah.
But I wasn't thinking straight. And I saw him immediately labor, and I felt good about my shot. And he ran 20 yards and fell over. And his head's still up, and he's laying down. And I'm like, I don't have another broadhead. So I was like, what would Rambo do in this scenario against the guerrilla warfare guy? I was like, if I get close enough, I get this thing deep enough to penetrate something. I
Yeah.
can get it. I can get up there close enough that it's gonna get into a lung. So I wait. He drops his head eventually, and I started like punching the tree out of excitement. I was like, yes, yes. But in the back of my mind, I'm still thinking, what if he gets up? Because
Yeah.
because he already had his head up and he dropped it. And first thing I do is I call Dad. He doesn't answer. So then I call Mom because I know Mom's close to Dad, and she goes, "What?" I was like, "Get Dad on the phone. I just shot him. I shot
Yeah.
him." And she's like, "You shot what?" I said, "The freak, the deer, the big one." She's like, "Okay, okay." And Dad gets on the phone. He said, "Hey, what's up?" He already knew. Mom had told him.
Yeah.
Mom had told him. And I was like, "I killed him." He goes, "All right." He said, "I'll make a few calls." He said, "Can you guys handle it?" I said, "Yeah, I'll call Taylor and Tanner." He's like, "All right, I'll see you when you get to the house." I said, "Okay." So then I call you two. I forgot who I called first.
You called me.
I called you and you were walking out, so you were whispering.
Yeah.
And you were like, "What's up?" I said, "I shot him. I shot the 8x8." You thought I said something different. I'll let
Yeah.
you tell that story.
Yeah, I didn't
But
have
then,
service where I was, and Gunner's like, "I shot him. I shot the," and it just kept like, I shot, I heard big 8, I ate bait, and just kept hearing 8, and I was like, and I just had a good night. I thought it was gonna happen, and nothing happened. So I was kind of like, man, I thought it was gonna happen tonight. And then Gunner calls me, and he's like, "I shot it," and I'm trying to get quiet because I had deer out front of me, and I'm walking out. And I knew if someone called me during that time that they shot one. So I was trying to be quiet, and I was like, "Oh, sweet," like cool. And really wasn't showing a lot of excitement for him because I was not to
yeah,
my truck yet to where I could get excited. But my heart was pounding already. I could just feel, boom, 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 just getting excited. And so he tells me big 8. And that's all I hear. And I'm like, oh, heck yeah, he shot that big 8 he missed yesterday. And I'm like, awesome. This is, sweet. We just got one on the ground as a team. So I'm like I said, I'm not far away. I got like the way I have to drive, it's about a mile. And so you call me and then you call Tanner. And Tanner's like, what, 4 miles?
yeah.
No, he's
He
about
heard me.
3 miles. And he
Yeah,
heard you. And so Tanner was staying at my house at that time a lot, and he kept his 4-wheeler there. And so he would just park at my house, and where from my house to his place was about a mile, mile and a half. And somehow that dude beat me to Gunner's gate on a 4-wheeler,
he did.
and I only had a mile to go, mile and a half maybe.
Yeah, I just
And
see you. And I see
yeah,
Taylor behind him. I'm like, "Is that Tanner?" And
yeah.
he's going, and yeah, that was crazy.
I remember pulling in, and I have the picture on my phone. I remember pulling in, and I pull up, and I'm pulling up, and I can see Gunner standing over this deer, and this arc. I mean, down there in the right corner of our logo, that arc was sticking out of the grass, curved up and around. And I remember, I'm still getting chills. Like, I remember going, "That's not the 8. That's the 8x8." I remember like slowing down, and then I remember just being like, "Oh my God." Like, I remember just punching it, and I just come flooring up there. And so we all get out, and it's like the most bromance situation I've ever been in. It
Yeah,
looked like it was NFL guys scored a touchdown. We had a victory, like, you remember when the Chiefs did like the carousel of like each
yeah,
other when they did the hike. That's what we were doing around this deer, like hugging each other, and we're
yeah,
freaking out. And I mean, I can't explain the feeling when I got there, and I saw this picture of the deer. I know he's a giant. I know he's a true giant. Like, you don't see those deer like that. And I remember getting there and seeing that deer lay there, and I was just like, what is this? Like, is this real? Like, this can't be real. And man, it's just hard to explain what that moment was between all of us. But man, that was something special I'll never forget. But I remember sitting there staring at that deer. We just kept high-fiving. We kept, and I remember looking at Gunner and going, "This is a state record." I said, "This is going to push a state record, if not more." And Gunner kind of laughed, and didn't think anything about it. And jokingly, I said, "Let me break off these little kickers at the bottom, and so they won't be deductions later down the
yeah.
road."
He
And
did
I
say
was like,
that.
and I remember setting them up for the pictures. I mean, it was unreal. We were already getting texts and phone calls, like, at that moment. I remember my phone going up, people already knowing about it. When I pulled in, I took a little picture on my Snapchat, and that's how it got started, and I sent that out, and, I already had people going, "What is that? Holy cow," you know? And, I stopped answering people because I knew right
Mhm,
then and there, I was like, "We gotta get this deer out of here."
mhm,
And, so we loaded them. We took pictures, seemed like we were out there for, like, an hour taking pictures, and, they're the famous pictures everyone gets to see, uh, that I got to take, so that's my special part of the deer is I got to take the pictures for Gunner,
mhm.
and, and then a group picture. So, we load it up, and, I'm gonna let you finish what happens when we load it up and we take it to your house.
Well, even I want to back up just a tad bit. Before
Mhm.
you guys got there, I was like hugging this deer. I like dropped to my knees and was like, dude, thank you. It was like a
Yeah,
moment where it was like, it's like, this is crazy. It was my first bow buck too. So that was
yeah,
a moment
yeah,
in
that's
itself
special.
as
I mean,
well.
I
And,
remember shooting
but,
my first one and being thankful, and it was a 9 point, a little 9 point, like 120, maybe 110-inch 9 point. I sat there and just patted him on the shoulder. I mean, I pat about every deer I shoot on their shoulder or somewhere and just tell them thank you for,
mhm,
thank you for giving me this opportunity. And I just feel like that's a respectful thing to do. But
mhm.
I couldn't imagine having that deer, what I would do.
It
But
was,
I would have probably hugged it too.
I did. I hugged it and I looked at him and I was like, this is crazy. But anyway, yeah, we loaded him up and I get there and RC, dad's friend's already at the house.
Hmm.
And he's like, let me see this deer. And he looked over and he said, yep. He said, that's a big one. I was like, yeah. He said, that's a big one. And the dad looked at him and my grandpa was there and those were some cool pictures. But
Yeah.
G-Paw was pretty obsessed with that deer for the time that it happened because G-Paw grew up in the time where there was no deer. My dad
Yeah.
did
Well,
too,
heck,
but
even your dad did too. Yeah.
yeah. And so like to get to that point is was wild for them. Um, and we took it over to Gage's parents' house where
Hmm.
Gage grew up, and we put him on the we put him on their skinning pole there.
And yeah, and
They
we
have a whole
weighed
setup, and then we weighed him. I forgot what he weighed.
168. It was 168 or 167.
Yeah,
That was field dressed.
yeah. And Grant looked at me. He said it jokingly. Grant's Gage's dad,
Hmm.
and said, "Do you guys have a good lawyer?" And we kind of laughed. He said, "This thing is big." I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, he kind of said the same thing Taylor kind of was saying. And it hadn't hit me yet, really. It really hadn't. Um, I remember thinking I'm gonna post a deer and there's gonna get like 100 likes. People are like, "Good job, Gunner," you know.
Yeah.
And it was just gonna kind of move on from there, and we were gonna live our lives. But it got crazy because more people kept showing up to the house looking at it from
Yeah.
the day, even days after.
Well, go into so we spent the night skinning it out, caping it out,
Hmm.
um, and, cut up the deer that night, put it in your freezer, and, go about what happened, onto your post and what happened the next day.
I posted him pretty late because we dealt with the deer that night. And then I posted him pretty late, and my caption was wild, comma. That's all I got. That's all I had. It was wild.
Yeah.
I didn't have a clever caption. I wasn't clever at the time. So I just posted him. I went to
We're
sleep.
still
I woke up.
still starstruck at the moment. Jeez, I can't talk tonight.
I went to sleep. I woke up. Had like 1,200 new Facebook friends, 1,500 new Facebook friends, and then more. I still accept Facebook friends today that got
Yeah,
hidden in there because it got like it wigged out on me on there. I still go through there and accept people. There's no telling how many new friends I have daily that I
yeah,
didn't accept back then because I just didn't have time. Um, I had messages on my phone. I had I went back to Stillwater that night. I just started college. I had class the next morning. I woke up at like because I don't sleep through the night a whole lot all the time,
yeah,
especially during deer season. So I had class like, I don't know, probably 10:30, and I kind of rolled over at 6:37-ish. Again, after I'd rolled over earlier that morning, but I rolled over and I kind of looked at my phone. I went, "What?"
Yeah.
And so then I got up and then I kind of like was trying to go back to sleep, like trying because I was like, I got class. I was
Yeah.
trying to take it all in, and I got a phone call. I picked it up. It was Boone and Crockett, and they were like, "Hey Gunner, this is so and so from Boone and Crockett. How are you?" I'm like, I'm pretty good. Congratulations on your deer. And I was like, thanks. You know,
Yeah.
I appreciate that. It's like a Montana number.
Yeah.
I wasn't originally going to answer it, but I did. It was just a random Montana number. And
Dude, I
yeah,
had I had so many people messaging me too to get your contact information. I didn't know who to send it to and who not to. And I remember we even had the conversation of do you tell the story for free or do we hold it? Because people were saying don't tell it for free. You remember
I had
that?
some,
People were telling us were saying don't give it away for free.
I had people offer me $1,500 to tell it just to them and not anybody else. And I had Lacey Lowry message me on Facebook, and I didn't even recognize it was Lacey Lowry for like a whole day. Yeah, I was so
It was insane. I mean,
aggravated.
our Instagram page blew up too to like a couple thousand followers in like that
Hmm.
first few days.
Hmm.
And, I mean, it was messages after just the most random people, and everywhere was posting it. The new, potential world record is what people were saying.
I had people from Canada message me saying they're rooting for Milo. It's like
Yeah.
cool,
Yeah, we had
Venezuelan
messages telling
people.
us we're still rooting for Milo or we're still doing this, and it's like that's cool and all, but we were still like even me as your friend, I was just like, what's going on?" So I can imagine and I remember just people, like, calling me and like, "Can we talk to Gunner?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm not a secretary, but let me ask," like, it's
Yeah,
kinda funny because I turn into like, "Hey, so and so wants to talk to you. What do you mean to say?"
yeah,
And we did turn some people down because it got crazy. And that's
hmm
one thing that, you decided and, we all talked about during this process of you didn't really wanna make money off this deer. It was more of let's tell the story of how it happened.
I wanted control of the narrative,
Yeah.
and I wanted the narrative to be true, and I wanted to be able to tell it to who I wanted to when I wanted to. Like those people that wanted to take it for money, they didn't want me to tell it to even my like local newspaper. It's
Yeah.
like I had relationships with those guys back in high school. I played sports like and everything, and those guys moved around and they wanted to talk to me, and I was like, I'm gonna tell them a story, like,
Yeah.
and I want to talk to these people. Um, I mean, like the people that got the story from me were people like Meat Eater that just wanted to sit down and talk, and like North
Yeah.
American Whitetail who has a relationship with me today, who texted
Yeah.
me today. Those are the people that got sit downs and calls and stuff for me.
Well, I mean, we didn't know it then, but looking back on it now about these people that have killed these big deer, the people that do it for money, which I don't blame them. Don't get me wrong. I mean, if that's what they wanna do, that's what they wanna do. I'm not bashing anyone. But a lot of times the people that do it for money are the ones also going through investigations on how the animal was killed and all that. You know what I mean? And,
Yeah.
some of these people's first aspect are how much money can I make? And it's like, that's not what we were about. One of our, we have 3 things that we live for through OD, and one of them is to tell how the average person can do it. And, if that kinda right there, that story right there backs that, that's what we mean. We want to be able to show how the average person can have success. And, so that right there, in my eyes, spoke volumes of, yeah, that's when we mean it.
Mhm.
And, so yeah, so Meat Eater reached out. I remember Outdoor Channel messaged us. I
Mhm.
remember calling you as soon as they did. They're like, "Hey, we want to go live on all of our platforms with y'all." And I was like, "Oh my gosh," and
Yeah.
then so it was Meat Eater, Outdoor Channel, uh, Midwest. Was it Midwest Whitetails? Didn't they do something on you? or about you in their
Yeah,
in their
they did something.
oh my gosh, in their magazine. They did something about you.
Hmm.
Did an article there. Um,
North American whitetail.
yeah, that's what I meant. North American whitetail.
Hmm.
Uh, man,
Uh,
Midwest Whitetails did post your picture.
they did post it. Yeah. Outdoor Channel, of course, did.
Yeah, Sportsman
Uh,
Channel, all of our local news, all these
Field,
newspapers.
I think
Um,
Field and Stream did, didn't they?
man,
Or
I
I
don't
talked to
remember.
somebody. I don't know.
It just went crazy, man. I mean, when growing up as a kid, you only think about in situations of, wow, I want to be on there one day. And we went from 23 days of releasing our platform and going, well, if worst comes to worst, we can show our grandkids this. To going,
Getting
what
free
is going,
rackulators.
what is going on? Yeah, Raculator, and Matthews tried to reach out through some people. We'll get later into that. And some people kind of shot that in the foot for us. Realtree sent you a package.
Yeah, who? Yeah, Realtree sent me a package. I forgot who signed it. But Realtree sent me a package. I got some camo from them. That was cool.
I mean, insane. It was one of those moments that you can only dream about. And I remember, it was like I was living a dream. Every day I woke up and I was like, no way Gunner did this. And I even got caught in a situation where people are like, you're just living off Gunner's fame. And I'm like, how
We're
am I
just
living off
doing this,
this?
man.
I was like, I'm not living off anyone's fame. Like, I'm his best friend. Tanner was our best friend. And I was like, we're just living this because we're a fan. We're a friend group, and that's what we do for each other.
And that's what, like, when people started trying to get, like, Backwoods Show, when they first reached out and they were trying to give me stuff, I was like, I ain't going unless you give me, you know, multiple credentials. Like, we're all
Yeah,
going. And that's what I told them. They're like, yeah. Take all of it you need. I was like, I told them I needed at least 3 exhibitor badges for you
yeah,
guys. And then all the tickets I could have, and they gave it to me. So we got
yeah.
in there, but
So we interviewed with Outdoor Channel, and we talked about it on the first podcast. Dude, we were so nervous, and I remember like we talked about the sweat in our armpits when we were done. Even off that, I mean, we just kept gaining people, and it got to the point where I was like, "What do I do? What do I do with our social media?" Like it's at that point, I was like, "We're about to be on our own TV show." Like
yeah,
next week we're gonna be on the Outdoor Channel. And it's gonna be
yeah,
Gunnar Womack and his 2 buddies or something, you know what I mean? I'm like,
yeah,
"Holy cow, this is unreal."
yeah.
And, so that happened. We had to wait 30 or how many days is the dry period? Is it
I think it
90?
was 30, 60, or 90.
It was somewhere in there. Well, so in Oklahoma, we have what's called the Backwoods Show, and it's a big hunting expo, and it was magically right there. Oh, let's go back. You, had, Spencer Grace come over and, score it. Was it the day after or was it 2 days after?
I don't remember. I
Either
think it
way.
was either way. I had like 10 people reach out trying to score it, and he was
Mhm.
like the closest one, and he was a game warden. So I was like, sure,
Yeah.
come on. It wasn't any. There was like people like, I'm a professional scorer. I went to the scoring school. Can I please do
Yeah,
it from like Illinois? I'm like, yeah. I didn't know. I just knew Spencer was local, and I wanted to kind of stay.
and
I
he's a
wanted to
good
stay
guy. Like,
local.
Spencer
Mhm,
Grace is an awesome guy from everything I've heard,
mhm.
and, so, yeah, so he came over, he scored it. Do you remember what his scores were?
He greened at like almost 210. I want to say 209 gross. No,
I thought it was 217?
he might have 217 to grow. It was really he grossed it and netted it well above what we needed. So we
Yeah,
got pumped at that point in time.
yeah, we got super pumped, and,
And we
so
were
then
like,
it had
oh, he's gonna get it.
yeah, with ease,
Yeah.
and, so we had to wait the 90 days. You had a taxidermy company reach out, that wanted to do the mount. They say, their motto is if any state record they'll do for free. Um, so they reached out and did it for free and said they would have it ready for the Backwoods show. So a gunner went with them. And so building up to the Backwoods show, what was your thoughts? Your deer. So they had us slotted in for a certain time to score them. We were kind of like highlighted in their expo flyer that year of, Gunner Womack's bringing his deer. It's going to get officially scored. What was your thoughts leading to the Backwoods show?
I hope if they're gonna make a fuss over this, I hope he gets it. I did, at that point in time, the whole time I didn't really care as much. I was
Right.
happy that he got the attention he deserved. I was happy we were getting to do all this together. I was happy our platform was growing. If he didn't get it, and my dad sat me down and talked to me about this because he wanted to talk to me about it too.
Yeah.
And we kind of got, to the point where we're like, man, it doesn't, if he gets it or not, he is an amazing deer.
Absolutely.
Don't take anything away from him. If he doesn't get it by an 8th, so be it. He's a one of a kind looking deer anyway. And going into it, I tried to really stay level headed about it and mitigate expectation, if that makes sense in my brain. So I wouldn't be disappointed if he didn't make it. And I was just happy to be there, really. I was pumped they asked me to do it, and I was pumped that we got to go there together and we got to be a part of it. And how we were going to get to be a part of it, and like who was going to be there and stuff like that. I was pumped that I got to bring my family there too, like G-Paul and my dad and stuff.
My
that
family
made me
came.
happy. Yeah.
We had all sorts of friends come. So we were going down there. We hurried and ordered some shirts. I know I didn't have but $100 on my account. And I was like, I got to get some matching shirts. And so we got us some matching shirts. And I thought I said large, but I thought I said extra large, but I guess all larges. So they're kind of tight on me. And so I remember hurrying getting the shirts and we wear them. And I remember just walking around with that deer, just the amount of people that were like, Gunner, 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 and like, and back it up between the time that you killed that deer to the Backwoods show, the amount of stories that came out about how that deer was killed, and like some false narratives were insane too. I mean, we heard that deer escaped a high fence up in Kansas and ran down to our place, which we're in central Oklahoma. That deer would have had to run down here in 5 days, and I'm like, come on now. And it even matched. No one had a picture of this deer that supposedly got escaped. Someone said it got out of a high fence around Pawnee. Side note, Gunner had 3 to 4 years of pictures of this deer going up to this point. So that's not possible. The high fence that is around us only does fallow and some exotic hunts. They don't even do deer hunts. And the deer that are there are ear tagged. This thing had no ear tags. So that's what I'm saying. There's no whitetail in this place. And everyone's like, oh, he escaped and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And, and I had people calling me going, like, come on now, what happened? And it's like, nothing happened. Gunner shot this wild deer on his place and it's pushing the state record. What else story? I mean, dude, the stories were unreal.
Remember the guy that came up to us and said, I heard he was shot off Bob Moore's ranch.
Yeah. There was people that we shot off people's ranch. There is a guy that has that name around us, but it's 160 acres. We heard, man, this is stories. I can't remember them all, but you're just sitting there laughing, going, "How
you
are
heard
people
talking at Brahms, didn't you?
Yeah, I heard people
talking.
Yeah, talking about it was poached. I mean, just all these stories, and I'm just like, how is this narrative being brought up? And even when we got to the Backwoods show, we got confronted by people about that stuff. And, someone was like, yeah, so-and-so at booth, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not going to drop names because I'm not that type of person, is saying that it's poached. And if you're here and you're man enough, he'd like to talk to you. And I'm like, or we're man enough? Like, come on now.
You want to talk to I just turned 19.
Yeah, he was
go confront a 19-year-old kid.
Yeah, he wanted
Come
to
at
dish
me.
on you, and that made me mad. So I went over there with you and I confronted him. And afterwards, he was like, "Oh, sorry, sorry," and I'm like, you're the reason why people are making this false narrative on this deer, and it's just aggravating because that's what happens now on any big deer that's killed. Um, and when the reality is, you need to be excited that that animal lived that long to get that big in the area we're in. We're hunting
Hmm.
160 acres. Let me repeat that. We're hunting 160 acres surrounded by other hunters. And Gunnar Womack killed a 188-inch deer with a bow. 5.5, 6.5-year-old. I think the tooth came back and said he's 6.5, wasn't it?
Wild something labs came back and said it was 6.5.
So here we are trying to be so excited as kids, and everyone's like, well, boo, you did this, did that. And we're like, so that kind of took some fun for a little bit out of it until I was kind of like, don't do it. So they had us a time slated to go get it scored. We went live on our Facebook and Instagram. There was news people there. There was probably it was
Chopper was there. Remember the chopper
what?
guy was there with Lacey Lowry, the guy that flies the
Mhm.
chopper for News 9 was there.
I mean, there was several news. There were so many people going live, and we had family. I had family show up. Tanner had family. You had family. We had friends, and it was an awesome moment to be there. And when they said it's time to score, I remember we went live. We had a guy filming for us, set up our cameras. We went live on all of our social media, and there was a panel scored by 3 Oklahoma Wildlife Department. Were they all? Yeah, they're all game wardens, and they do
Hmm.
that every year. They score everyone's deer. Like you can bring one deer and get it officially scored. And I mean, it felt like it took them 2 hours to score this deer. And I just remember my heart was pumping. I was
I was
sweating.
like, it can't even be close because it wasn't even close green, and we were like, it'd have to shrink.
Yeah. So what was your mindset when they were scoring it? What were you doing? What was going through your mind at that point?
I was kind of looking for people in the crowd, like, oh, cool, I remember him, stuff like
Yeah,
that. Just kind of taking in the scenery, if that makes sense. It's like this is gonna happen
being
once.
in the moment.
Yeah, I was like, this is gonna happen once.
Yeah.
So I was like, I kind of was looking around, taking in, talking to anybody that wanted to talk to me. Like anybody that came up to me, I was gonna talk to them. Any little kid that wanted a picture, I was gonna take a picture. That's just what I wanted to do. I didn't want it to be like stuck up Gunnar Womack didn't want to take a picture with
Yeah.
5-year-old. I didn't want to be like that. I didn't want that to be the narrative. So
I
I
was over there
just
eagle eyeing the score sheets.
yeah
I stood in that same spot. I mean, I took it in when I could, but I was just staring. I was like, please don't, don't mess up. Don't take something off this deer. I
yeah
just remember I eagle eyed him. I mean, I remember you walking around. Your dad was hiding in the back of the audience.
yeah I
And
remember
I
that.
mean, there was a couple hundred people in this little aisle surrounding us.
Yeah,
And I got pictures of that. That was cool. I got some cool pictures of them scoring his deer. So they have the score. They didn't tell us anything. They have Gunner come up there.
they're all like whispering, and I was like,
Yeah.
don't have me come up here. Just tell me you didn't win it. Come on.
And they're like
Like
shaking their heads, yes, and doing all this stuff. So they go up there and they announce like the deer broke the record by an eighth. And like we're excited. So what was your feeling when they said, Gunner, you have broke the record, shook your hand, and said they beat it by an eighth and announced it over the intercom? What was your going through your head at that point?
dang, that was closer than I thought.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was happy.
Hmm.
I was half relieved just because we had gone through this whole process and he actually did beat it. It's like,
Hmm.
okay, cool. Phew, we didn't
Well,
do
we
this
were
whole
still
big
thinking he
pony
was going to be
show.
the like state record overall.
Yeah, that's what he
Like,
placed at green.
and yeah, by far. So when we heard what his deductions were and what he scored, we're like, holy cow, he really. But he is a state archery typical record, and he
Mhm.
beat it by an eighth. I mean, that's that big. And that's what's crazy to me. You have this 8x8 with a couple 1 inch, 1.5 inch kickers on the bottom, and it beats a 10-point by an 8th. I mean, I'm just like, still today, I'm still like,
Dad wants to get it rescored, but
I want to, dude. I want to, but I'm not saying they scored it wrong by any means. If anyone listens to this and thinks that, that's not what I'm saying. But you're talking about a deer in 8x8 that it's pretty symmetrical. I mean, granted, if it's off at a 1/2 inch on every point, you're 16 inches done right there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, I see where the deductions are, but we're talking about a world-class 8x. You hear about a 5x5, you hear about a 6x6. Everyone wants to shoot a 7x7. Everyone in this world wants to shoot a 7x7. This is an 8x8. I mean, I don't know how to express that. He doesn't have a lot of width on him, has the tine length. If we could have boiled his rack and pulled it out and made him about that wide, we had had the record by far, or you would have the record. I don't want to take any claim to it, but just going back to that moment, I remember going like, I was just like kind of confused, but we hugged everyone, we're clapping. But after that point, that's when the madness started there too, of the amount of people trying to. That's when Bug Ventures came up to you. All sorts of people started coming up to you then. And I'm only saying this because it's leading up to one of our other topics down the road. So we get the record, or you get the record. We're pumped. Our social media's taken off. We just lost all of our film. We had the deer going for us. We walk away from that show. So Buck Ventures interviews you. We went around. We met Camo Retro. We met all these people, all these significant people in the industry that were there. And we a lot of them still talk to us. You know what I mean? Like a lot of them still keep tabs on us, keep up with us. And at that point, I mean, we were on cloud 9. There's no other way to explain our feelings on that day. I mean, I remember just praying at the end of the night, going, "Man, God, thank you for this opportunity. Like, I don't want to leave this place. Like, it's awesome. Like, I'm a very talkative person, as you guys can see, but I was like, I love getting to meet all these people. I'm not looked at as oh, he kills decent deer or this or that. I'm looked at as, oh, you took these pictures for Gunner and hunt by him, the story, let's talk. And so I met so many people during that time and thought I was building friendships, and which I did. I built a lot of friendships during that time. We all did. Don't get me wrong. And I'm sure you felt the same way. I mean, there were so many people that reached out to us even afterwards. Even still today, there's still people that bring it up, and it's great because it breaks the ice in any conversation, and that's what I want. I want a conversation with people. I want to be able to talk to people, and that's what this deer did. And it got us on our feet. It got us to our to the point where we can do these charity events and have more of a following. It got us to this point where we can even feel excited to bring you a podcast to talk about stuff. And so that's what I'm saying. It's like the buildup of this deer is actually, I mean, it's in our logo. This is how much this deer means to us. It's right here. I wear it everywhere. Gunner has it everywhere. It's strapped on everything we have, this logo. And that's what we tied it back to, is this deer. So Gunner gets the record. Having some issues with Boone and Crockett getting officially entered, but we're going to get it entered probably this year. It's been an aggravating experience. They asked for all these pictures. We sent them all the pictures. They need something signed. We have it signed, but they don't like the way it was signed. I mean, just nitpicking stuff. So we'll get it in there. If not, I mean, he is what he is. He's not going to shrink. He's a deer, but I would like to eventually take it to a official Boone and Crockett score, which, I mean, I'm not saying Spencer Grace or any of them aren't. I just want to see someone else score him in that, just to ease my mind, because that deer is unreal. I mean, and also that deer, that deer has humbled me on me scoring deer. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, oh, that's a 180. No, no, buddy. No, it's not. That's a 160. You know what I mean? Like, that thing's
Yeah.
humbled me. So let's get back on track. So Gunnar, looking back, I told you before we started this podcast that I was going to have some questions to hit you with, and that I've never really got to ask you. So looking back on that deer, what's your, I guess, what does it feel like to have that deer, and what have you got out of it? What are some things you've got out of it? Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's nice because a lot of people that normally wouldn't approach me, if that makes sense. Like you were saying, they approach me like, wait, you're that guy. I'm like, yeah. And then we talk and they figure out, I'm easy to talk to, and then we're friends.
Yep.
And all college, a bunch of the friends I made was because they came up and talked to me about the deer. The whole process probably got me talking to people better because I had to talk to so many people.
Yeah.
It got me better with like interviews and stuff like that because I was like forced into it. It was like, I took interviews I went on podcasts from a little guy in Ohio that, did it out of the back of his truck to
Yeah.
a piece with North American whitetail, and then I did one with Christian. And
I mean,
where he is.
Yeah, and look at that now. Like, our friendship with Christian and Hunter's Advantage, I mean, it wouldn't have been to where it was unless it was for that deer.
It's probably the connections I've been able to make, and like we're gonna get into the negatives of that side, but the ones that worked out, those connections is what was greatest about it, and the experience I got to have with like, you guys and my dad and my grandpa. Really, they got to be part of all that too, and that was awesome for them. It was awesome for you guys too. You got to be everywhere with me too.
Oh yeah, that was a blast.
They got to be part of it too, and I really wanted to make them come to all this stuff too so they could see it all. And they had a blast just being around it. My grandpa ate it up. He was so proud. Everybody he's walked by, he'd be like, "Hey, my grandson," Deepaw ate it up. That's probably the biggest thing was I got to have all these people around me get to experience it with me because it was so fun.
Yeah.
To have that was what I got from it. And it's just cool having the record, I guess. It's just a cool thing. Like, cool.
Yeah, and on the flip side, records are supposed to, made to be broken, and we know eventually, it's probably going to be broken because I mean our deer are getting bigger, so we know eventually it is. But it's just a God-given gift to be in the time and be in the moment to be able to build where we were. I mean, we also got to go to a couple church deals and get up on stage and say some words. That's kind of what launched our charity side of OD. So yeah, the good that came out of it outweighs the bad. But there is some crazy bads that we're about to get into. It's not nothing horrible, but it just tells you a lot about some people in the industry. But no, this is exactly what you said. The family and the bond that we all got to build off this deer. I mean, it made us to where we are and the connections we have. I mean, Hunter's Advantage. Shout out to them. They're killing it. And, we got a connection with them. Several people through social media that we get to talk to. I'll be honest, probably starting this podcast, we have some people that we probably but probably wouldn't have wanted to come on unless we are where we are. And I think that gave us a big boost. I mean, you're talking to something that happened in 19 in year 2024. Here we are still being able to get the boost from it. And, when we talk about this little lull that we went into, that's going to happen. Like I said, I've stated this to y'all before. That's going to happen. that's going to happen in any situation like this. You're going to get the high of high, but when you go in the lows, you're just going to feel it. And that's where we were, but here we are in 2024. Technically, 4 seasons, right? 2020, yeah, 4 seasons after getting them down. Here we are getting to make another move to boost ourselves and get more involved in this industry. So, yeah, there's nothing that's gonna it's gonna take a lot to overcome those moments that we got to build off that deer. You spend. It's crazy to think you spend 3 years chasing a deer to get a lifetime of memories off of it, like we are. And I mean, this amount of respect of every animal that I get to harvest is unreal. But for that deer, I mean, it's every time I look at him, I'm just like, thank you. You know what I mean? Like, thank you for what you did. Thank you for putting us in places that the average person normally doesn't get put in. Even thinking for feeding us. We eat all these animals that we harvest. Thank you for giving us something to eat and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I can't stress the amount of respect I have for that animal. So anyways, let's go into the topics of that we've wanted to talk about for a while, and we haven't really talked about it. We've kind of talked about it to each other and some other people, but the amount of people that wanted to talk to us, talk to you, talk to me, talk to us as a group, came and did some segments with us, use the stuff that we sent them, the stuff they filmed of us, and have used it for their advantage. And when we've reached out after starting this podcast and times after with questions and, going, hey, maybe we could, team up, and kind of bounce ideas off each other. The amount of people that have just cold shouldered us is unreal.
Yeah, it's been, I guess the word's disappointing.
It's been disappointing, but on the flip side of it, we know who our people are. We know who have our back. And even talking about I don't want to drop names, man.
I can put a group on blast if we want.
I don't feel like dropping names, but even someone that did something to that deer came back a year later and kind of put us on the back burner and messaged Gunner and we're like, oh, we have the new state record. Your deer's going to be nothing compared to this deer. Well, it was a 4x4 with nothing but trash around it. And they felt the urge to message us to let us know that Gunner's been dethroned for the deer to go through the dry period and no one ever hear about this deer again. And it's unreal because when Gunner killed that deer, that day he killed it, the amount of posts that were out for it and the sharing of it and what they used to advertise it to grow their business. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we're going to knock you down. And that's what's crazy. We have people that at the show gave us all this free stuff. Like, reach out if you ever need anything. We know you guys are starting. We've reached out. 10 minutes later, the message says seen or read or viewed and never hear back.
What about I don't get invited back to the show anymore?
Oh yeah, Backwoods show that following year, wasn't it?
They let me come back next year, and then they told me that they wanted to start circling. They said, well, we'd rather just cycle. And it was about the time when they thought it was going to get dethroned.
Yeah, that was that year deer that the other deer was supposed to come in and take the record.
And so they were like, well, we kind of want to start cycling different deer through there. And I was like,
yeah, they
cool.
stone cold.
That's okay. I'm never coming back, probably.
Yeah, that's what that's what I'm talking about. They built that. They used us to build up some of their advertising, which is a great show. They make a lot of money off that deal. But they used us to get people in there. And then when we're like, hey, let us bring the deer back, we're not asking for free tickets in. Let us bring the deer back. And
it's
maybe
a hassle. It's a hassle for me to drive it up there early and check it in with them and do that. Like that's a day for me.
Yeah, well, then they offered us that day we were there, they were like, "Hey, y'all need to come back, we'll give you a good price on the table," and we're like, "Well, that's great," 'cause we're broke college kids, you know, and after that, nothing. Didn't hear anything from them. Um, and it's just crazy, like I said, there's just some big companies that are handing out stuff left and right to people around us, and they came to our place, used our footage, used our pictures, used your deer to to get more followers, and when we reached out to them, just don't wanna answer. And that's the way this industry is. It's, and I hate to say it, the bad side of this industry in the sports world is if or in the hunting industry and fishing industry, if they don't have something they can use from you, you're nothing. And I hate to say it like that.
Well, it's like you don't have to, like, once you use us and you get that whole thing, you can still be cordial with us. You can still talk to us, help us out, give us tips. You don't
Yeah,
have to let us come in and do the things you were letting us do because we died down, but you can still be like, hey man, I saw this pretty cool, or you know, I don't
yeah.
know, be friendly, I guess is
Well, yeah,
what
well,
I'm getting at.
one of those groups that came and videoed us and did a segment with us for their YouTube was even here asking us if they can kill turkeys off our land when they're here. And then we turn around and we're like, like, "No, we don't really have many turkeys." And then, like, they're like, "If you guys need anything editing-wise, like, let us know, we can help." And I've asked numerous times and messaged the person on his phone. I know he's got it because it says red and nothing. And I'm just like, "Man, that's not right. This is not the way it's supposed to be." And,
We really
that's
didn't have turkeys.
I'm not asking for sponsorships. I'm not asking for free handouts, but if you get to use us year after or use you year after year, the most respectful thing you can do is turn around and kind of help us out. Throw like I've always said, throw the dog a bone. I mean, if the dog's going to do all the work, the worst thing you can do is give it a bone, or the least thing you can do is give it a bone. And that's what these people forgot, and it's just crazy. I mean, we hear about all these big deer, and then you don't hear about them anymore, and that's kind of what happens. Is I think I've kind of learned that it's not really yeah, you're killing a big deer is great, but it's also these companies trying to figure out how to benefit themselves, and it's unreal.
Yeah. Um, like, yeah, I mean, people, and all these people, I thought we were going to be like, I don't want to say like super close, but I thought in the future, like if we had questions or we could ask for some advice, they'd at least
Yeah.
be like, yeah, we can help you out. We get it. Like, be cordial, be friendly, because that's something we would do.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely, and we
just,
still
I'm
do
just
it.
gonna openly say that that's something like, let's say we blow, like we just blow up. If you were with us before, you're with us,
Not
you
even
know,
that. I mean, if you're
and
we still have people ask us how we do stuff. I mean, I was on the phone today with a guy, and he was asking, "Well, how'd you guys get where you are?" And I just said, I just told him what we did. I told him be consistent, put out good, content, and just like I said, be consistent and be you. I mean, that's the best thing you can do, and that's what
Mhm.
we've stuck with. And it's just funny because even if a guy that just got hunting reached out today, we're gonna help him.
Yeah,
And at my
and
job
even
the
it,
other day, I had a guy ask me about deer hunting. He's never really done it, and he just got into it. I don't get paid to be there. I get paid off, you know what I mean? I get paid off the building.
mhm.
And, I took an hour of my time to sit there and talk to him about it because that's the way I am. I wanna be able to help people, and it just goes to show that there's not a lot of people that wanna help. It's about building up off what they can build up off you and then kicking you out.
Mhm.
And that's why it's a lot some of our closest friends, now, they've seen it, and, and that's what we've talked about. We need to build a community that's on the good side of it.
Well, think about this too. Whenever I was at that backwoods show, I won't drop any names or anything. I had a certain manager come up to me and tell me that they wanted to do certain things with me and stuff. And like a week or two later, I messaged this person and I got left on red.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
man, I was excited. I was like, maybe we can do something with this. Maybe this person will really help us. And it's like, no.
Yeah.
Just
That's
don't,
what, you know,
yeah, just
a
don't
lot of
lie to
people,
me. Like,
yeah, don't lie to us, don't set us up. But a lot of these people is crazy. They were like, you know, you should push this deer more and you should do this. Well, we tried a little bit. We tried to push it to grow, and it just was just that situation right there. The people that were like, "Oh, let's get it to this level," were like, "Nah." You know what I mean? Like, "Oh, you're just
yeah,
the state record archery typical. You're not the world record, sorry." And it's like, well, okay,
people
if we
dropped off even after it went down to just the state archery.
yeah.
Like when it was originally like people calling me and stuff saying world record, from that point to whenever it was announced it was the state record archery, people dropped off then and ghosted me and
Yeah.
you. And that was wild too. And I mean, I'm a 18, 19-year-old kid, and I'm like, well, that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
I don't know the world at all. And I'm
Yeah.
getting, you know, I'm
And that's
getting
what, you
like,
know,
yeah.
uh a certain somebody was working on I guess reaching out to Matthews, and they were trying to reach us, um and we're not asking, like I said, we're not asking for handouts. We're not. But if we believe in a company, we're going to use them and we're going to push them. And one of the companies I completely believe in is Matthews. And I've only shot a Matthews bow. I won't change. I just love what they have. And someone even told them that we weren't interested before they even told us or even talked to us. And I'm like, you know, this shot our chance in the foot of being able to talk to the number one or number two bow maker in the world.
Yeah.
And it couldn't even get to us, you know, and I'm just like, man, it's just the amount of people, you know, and the stories that were told that I was just like, that kicked us down. And I mean, don't get me wrong, we got a lot of, we don't want to be negative, but we got a lot of good out of this deer, but the bad was just kind of crazy. Um, like I said,
And
just what happened.
we're not, and I'm gonna reiterate what he keeps saying. We're not saying, oh, we want this, we want that from these people. We wished we still had relationships that we could like just bounce ideas off of,
Yep.
or just be friendly with these people. We're not
Mhm.
asking, we were never wanting these people to carry us on their backs. That was never
Yeah.
something we were interested in. We simply wanted to make connections and grow our network and just
Yep.
be a community, I guess. Be
Yep.
part of that
Grow in the
community.
community.
And
Because I mean, this industry is like a professional deal. If you know, some people make it, most people don't, and we're not in it for the money. We're in it for the charity work. We're in it. We want everyone to be a part of it because it's a dying society. Hunting is dying in this world, and the more people we get to like it, is the more people that we win over, and it won't die. And that's what kind of where we're at. We're wanting to push it. We want to get in the industry. Don't get me wrong. We want to get in
oh
the
yeah.
industry, and we want to push stuff. We want to push stuff we believe in people we believe in. And we thought this was a way for us to open the door a little more and to get in it. And it kind of died down. But on the flip side, we have grinded it out. Um, we are young in this industry, super young. And we've grinded it out. We have never let anything bother us. We've kept our faith, we've kept our word, and we've kept who we are. And that's kind of where we are today. And that's where this deer has taught us a lot of life lessons. And like I said, I'll never the amount of respect I have in that animal is unreal.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, it to go back on it all. We just wanted to talk about it because everyone goes in these situations. I won't talk about my side of the story on CJ, but because I'm on the fence, I don't know if the dude poached that deer or not. I have no
Mm-hmm.
idea. But on my phone call today, we talked about it, and the guy said it's crazy. You're supposed to be innocent until you're proven guilty. Am I right? That's what
Yeah.
we're supposed to preach. This guy is people are making him guilty, and he's trying to prove why he's innocent, and he's not even been proved that he's guilty. And that's what this world's coming to. It's like we shoot each other so far down in the foot in this industry at times then it makes us look bad as a picture. You know, PETA gets this little information of CJ killed this deer wrong and did this, did that. That's what they're going to use against us. You know, so and so killed a deer wrong and they want to do that. So and so dumped, any negative thing that anyone can use towards you, they're going to use, and it's going to kick you down. And that's what we're trying to say is we need to stop being negative. People need to stop using each other, and we need to go hand in hand and join an army to grow this industry, because it's a tradition in my family that I can talk back to my grandpa, and I want to be able to talk to my grandkids about. And with the stuff that happens, I mean, I don't know if I would love to kill a big deer. Don't get me wrong. I would love to kill a 210-inch typical. Anyone does. That's a dream. But the amount of headache that comes with it anymore, if you're just the average guy, man. If someone showed up to my door and I killed this deer legally and they took it from me, it's not going to end well for me. You're not going to take something I did just because someone said you killed it wrong. And that's all I got to say.
Yeah. But to piggyback off that, we're supposed to be in this together, right?
Yep.
We are I'm going to say a dying breed, because
100% dying breed.
Cities are getting bigger. People like us aren't. Anything, so like you take anything like sports, any narrative at all, anything negative, people will twist that narrative to make it sound
100%.
better. Any snippet of negative, people can twist to blow it out of proportion. That's what people do in our industry all the time. And people that attack our industry, not just people in it, people that don't like it, they attack it using things like this, stories like we generate.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be more conscientious about jealousy too.
Yep. Oh yeah.
We can't be jealous of Joe Bob because he killed a big deer.
Yep.
We can't be mad at so-and-so, and I'm guilty of it. Like, dang it, he killed that 3.5-year-old. 4.5-year-old. You can be upset about it.
Yeah.
But it goes back to being one community. It's tough to tell someone how to hunt,
Mm-hmm.
It's their own way. It's how they do it. And this is just a community,
Well, when you make something like this, and this is a whole different topic, we can probably do a whole nother podcast in, but when you make something that's supposed to be hunting, it's supposed to be a traditional thing, into a commercialized thing, this is what you get. And the more that everyone pushes for all this stuff to go commercialized, the more rules that we make, the more laws that we change, that just eventually turns into being harder and harder to be able to do what we do. And that's where we're saying on this negative stuff is, like that stuff wasn't worth it. It wasn't about killing the biggest deer there is in Oklahoma. It was, all right, let's use this platform to be able to get people more involved, to show people Gunner's 18, 19 years old, just got his first bow and killed this deer. That just means anyone can do it. It can happen to anyone. CJ, he borrowed a bow and went out and killed that deer, or a crossbow and went out and killed that deer. I mean, that's where we're at. Like, if you want to go hunt, go hunt. If you want to shoot a deer that makes your heart happy, shoot the deer. Your neighbors are going to always shoot a deer. It might be big, it might be small. And everyone wants to sit there and talk about their neighbors. And that's not what the sport's about. I mean, the sport's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and it is going to get harder to kill bigger deer. But at the end of the day, it's not about killing the big deer. It's about having fun and getting out there and enjoy it. And I use it to get closer to God. So, but, well, do you have anything else to say?
I think we covered it. It was a good one right there, huh?
Yeah. That was a good one. We've been wanting to talk about this for a while. We're excited that you guys listened. I think we're going to start scheduling people for our podcast to come in and talk. Like I said, we have some people have done research. That'll be awesome. We have some people that have been very successful in killing big deer that are just the average people like we are. And we just have a list of people, and we have more people than we do have time right now on this list. But we're going to start picking away at them and bringing more people in. We have some companies reaching out, wanting us to come up and talk about what they make and what they do and what they stand for. And one of these companies, they stand for kind of some stuff we believe in, and I think, or two of these companies, and I think that'll be huge. So like I've said last time, if you have anything or anyone that you want on, please shoot us a message. You can find me and Gunner on our personals. You can go to Outdoor Defiance on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, any of that. Send us a direct message. More importantly, if you guys will please share share our podcast to your friends, share it on social medias if you see it. Just help us grow. The biggest thing that we can ask for is to help push this so we can teach people more stuff in this industry and be helpful. Because we had to learn. Me and Gunnar have had our both ways that we had to learn. The people we talked to had their both ways, or had a new way to learn. And that's where we want to do, is we want to be able to bring people on to talk about stories, talk about the funny stories, talk about how it was done and how they did it, so we can help the next person. So that's it for episode 2. We're excited for this one. We're excited for, what we're doing. And until next time, God bless.
All right.